Right.
Great.
Mike Parrish is here. Okay, well, it just started. Okay.
For everybody's edification, we have
Okay, Mike's here.
Hey, Mike.
26 people
Sam?
signed up. So you're going to see a lot of new faces come on the screen as this progresses.
Yeah. Sam, I don't see Sam on the list, but that's fine. Sam, can you hear us?
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mark, somehow you're listed as Sam.
Okay, I'll be Sam today.
Okay,
I love being
Flexibility.
Sam. Sam sounds
Yeah.
good to me. I like being Sam. Sam I am. Was that the thing, Sam I am? Was that it? Right? Right?
Hey, Mark, we were gonna start this at 5:30, but we thought that might be too early for you.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in that, John. Little disappointed. I expect a little bit more than you. Last time we ate at the bagel and you weren't even there. It's a problem.
Yeah. So anyway,
John,
okay,
it's so good to
Jonathan
see you.
Kruger.
It's good to see you, John.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Jonathan Kruger, can you hear us, Jonathan?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear.
All right, I'm just
Okay, and
struggling in here.
Steve Doctor's here. Steve, can you hear us? I'll be being connected right now. Jonathan, how'd you hear about this?
Through Maury.
Maury, okay. And Steve, can you hear us?
Yeah, how you doing? Good morning.
Good. Steve, are you going to be on audio or just visual or just audio?
I'm gonna be just audio.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, it's 8:59, so we got a few more people coming, so we'll give them a time. So there we go. We got Paul McAtee. Okay, Mr. Paul's here. Steve Doctor, okay. Sam, although Sam is not Sam. Actually, Sam is Mark Jacobson, so you have to understand Sam is not Sam. Okay, Paul McAtee, can you hear us okay, Paul?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for joining. We appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Okay. Are you in Wisconsin or are you in Illinois right now?
I am in Illinois.
Okay. Jordan Gerber.
Morning.
Jordan Gerber. Okay. Jordan, welcome.
Morning. Morning, all. Happy Tuesday.
Yeah. Can you hear us
morning,
okay?
Jordan.
Can you hear us all right?
Loud and clear.
Great. Okay. Yeah, Jordan. Okay, that's great. All right. Steve, all righty.
Remember to announce that it's
This is-
being recorded. So no
Yeah, this
curse
is being
words. Let's keep
recorded.
it PG.
Okay, for everybody. So I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes. 9:01. And I'm gonna give everybody another minute or so, and then we'll start, and we'll go from there. Okay. So
Watch your language, everybody.
Mike, yeah. Mike, did you have any trouble getting on the Zoom today?
No trouble at all.
Okay, great. Okay, let's start then. There should be some more coming, but we'll see. It's 9:02. All right, so welcome everybody. Today's conversation, our monthly educational event is on understanding how culture-based selling can transform your sales program. So the idea that this is built on is culture being the foundation. So for the next hour, I'd like you to kind of think of the idea that culture is the foundation of business and life. And your sales program fits on your culture, okay? So Darren just joined us. Great, okay. And my name is, for those that don't know me, my name is John Rue. And I'm fortunate to partner with two hosts today. Maury Elstein and Bill Himmelstein. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Maury, why I brought Maury in here, and for those who don't know Maury, in my 30 plus years in business, this is by far the #1 connected connector I've ever met. I call him the Ted Williams of connecting. Maury, tell the people that don't know you about yourself.
Been in business in Chicago for over 45 years. Came here after going to Indiana University. Got involved with 3 companies, Kraft Foods, Miramont Corporation, and Owens, Illinois. Went on to get involved in an all-welded locker steel plant, which I was president of for 6 years, came into the city, got involved in the direct mail industry, started a company with 3 other guys who I bought out a year after I started with them, grew the company from 10 employees and 10,000 square feet of space to 875 employees and 350,000 square feet of space, sold that company 13 years ago, worked for a couple of friends for about 10 years, and then started Maury Connect, which is an exclusive membership club that allows presidents and owners of companies to belong and to receive a minimum of 15 introductions over a 12-month period. We try to teach people the method of paying it forward and using their human assets to grow their business.
Great. And Bill, if Maury's the Ted Williams of Connected Connectors, Bill's got to be the Joe DiMaggio. Bill, tell them about yourself.
Thank you, John. My name is Bill Himmelstein. I founded a commercial real estate consulting firm about 15 years ago after being in the industry for 8 years prior to that. We focus on working with what I call the end user of real estate. So tenants, buyers, and sellers in office, industrial, warehouse, medical, and a little bit of retail space, predominantly in Chicago and across the country. But really what I enjoy doing most is learning from guys like Maury, who I have affectionately nicknamed the Godfather of networking. He has taught me so much about paying it forward and serving as a connected connector and how to build relationships and support those around you. And it's just it's been a really fun way to go about doing business. I'm just grateful for guys like Maury who are willing to chat with guys like me and share their secrets.
Great. So there's 3 things we want to do today, 3 agenda items. #1 is talk about what is culture-based selling in a nutshell, and why you might want to put it in place for yourself. So that's the first thing. I'm going to briefly go over that. Then the second agenda item is talking about becoming a 5-star networker. And that will be Maury and Bill. I'm going to let them talk about their key tip, their #1 tip each, and you guys can ask them questions. What they call connected connector, you might call networking. And then the third aspect is going to be called a Jungian tool. We're going to discuss Carl Jung's, one of Jungian tools, and very few people realize this came from Jung, DISC and sales application. What are the 4 styles and what are tips to deal with the 4 styles? Okay, so that's the agenda for today. It goes from 9 to 10. We can stay an extra 15 minutes if you want. It's optional. And you can have one-on-ones with these guys if you want to do that afterwards too. Okay, so any other comments or questions so far? Bill or Maury, anything else you need to say before we get going?
No?
Okay, all right. So what is culture-based selling? So here's the assertion here. You either have a stated culture, either consciously or not, and sell in one of 3 ways. So let me repeat that. You have a culture, you're either selling from it or unconsciously, and in one of 3 ways. And we're going to talk about, it's a complicated subject. I'm going to deal with the issue of what one values, that particular point, okay? So the first example that you would sell, you might sell on a cost basis. Most people here probably are not selling on a cost basis, but if you're in the Walmart business, you're selling on a cost basis. And what happens when Costco is a nickel less? Well, they obviously go to Costco. Cost buyers buy on cost. I'm not judging this as good or bad. It's just to be aware that cost buyers buy on cost. And so you always have to be the low price, otherwise they're going to move. Okay. That's one type of buyer. Another way of selling is on perceived value. Perceived value deals with, and a good example of that would be Disney. The perceived value at Disney is such that it's unique and people get tremendous value. Now, I took my family there. It cost $25,000 to take my family there. It's certainly not for a cost buyer. It's definitely not. But the perceived value, and it has uniqueness. People come from all over the world to go to Disney World and Disneyland because there's nothing else quite like it, especially for young families. So you may be selling on perceived value. You may have something that's so unique that people come and they'll pay for it because of the perceived value. And the third area that you might sell on, which is probably more common here, if you're a lawyer, an accountant, you're in an insurance business where there's a lot of players doing what you're doing, you may sell on a service basis. Or what Bill and Maury will maybe touch on about partnering and relationship selling. This is commonly called relationship selling. And with on the discs, the high eyes, we'll get to that. These relationship people buy on relationship. So, and they go to you, Jonathan, or they go to you, Darren, because of the experience, the kind of service you give, and the experience is such with, hey, Darren's my man, or Mike Parrish is my man, or I go to Bill because because of his service. I have a relationship with them. So that's that. Now, here's the important point, I think, on this, and then we can field one or two questions and go into Maury and Bill's segment. What you want to do is get clear on your culture and put it in writing, because it can improve your speaking, your marketing, and your selling results. So when you have a written, and I prefer this in writing, a unique, empowering game plan for yourself, whether you're a sole proprietor or have a bigger team or a bigger company. When you have a unique, empowering written game plan, it can transform your business and transform your life. So let's have a few general questions on that, and then we'll go into networking. Steve, doctor, anything that you would say about that as it pertains to your business?
We definitely see all different buyer types across our customer base, and trying to cater to what they see value in is always something we're looking for. But I think clearly having a clear culture defined and communicated is a good idea, and something everyone should probably have in play.
Lori, you do a lot of work with executives. What would you say about this?
I'm sorry, John?
Well,
Lori, I asked Lori.
Oh, I think it's really important to be clear about what your culture is, because in my business, I work with small business presidents, and they want to know exactly the kind of service they're going to be getting. And it's important that the two cultures, that our culture and their culture, are in alignment.
Yeah. Anybody want to piggyback on that term, alignment? Does it have any meaning to anybody here?
Yeah, I'll go, John. I think it's important to choose choosing your particular clients to make sure that it's a fit for what you can actually do, as opposed to just taking work for the sake of taking work, and making sure that it fits your client characteristics and that picture you have of success with a client.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, and you guys can comment on that. For example, if you are a perceived value, you're thinking you're doing perceived value, but you're dealing with a cost person, there's a clash in cultures here. What you value is not what they value. So it makes sense to spend your targeting time and your focus on people who value what you bring. And Darren just said that. Bill, you do this in your work, and you've commented on not using this kind of word, but what would you say on this?
Well, first of all, having a defined culture is incredibly valuable to make sure you get the right players on your team versus the ones that might serve as a bad apple to start eroding your culture. And that's not something you want. Number two, something that you talk about a lot is the DISC personality profile. Just because someone has a different personality than you does not mean that they don't share similar values as you. So I think it's important to distinguish the two, understand that sharing values is a must. Sharing personality traits, we can be flexible on that. We can work with different people that share different personality traits, but that cultural piece, Peter Drucker said it best, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah. Mark Jacobson, anything you want to say about that? He's noted as Sam on the list here, but it's actually Mark Jacobson. Mark, anything you want to say on this subject?
Mark is on hiatus.
Yeah, no, I wasn't on hiatus. I just, it had me as Maria, Sam, and I couldn't hear I couldn't talk at all. So first of all, I've been listening the entire time with it. I think the goal in life, as John talks about, is not to deal with everybody that can be a customer. The goal in life is to deal with people who believe in what you believe in. In order for that to happen, you have to state a belief and then see who it attracts. And for those who don't believe it, we wish you well, right? Right, John?
And by the way, Mark's highly skilled in selling. So listen to him. That's very insightful. And the other guy is pretty interesting here on sales. Yeah. Barry, anything you want to say about this, Barry? You got some insight on the subject.
I think there's definitely value in having a culture and a mindset and an openness to meeting with and communicating and developing a relationship with anyone, no matter who they are or what they do. Yeah. Because if you're not going to do business with them or they with you or have it be a good fit, they can always introduce you to someone else. And that's part of networking, or it just makes sense. So I personally enjoy those customers who really value what I or anyone on my team and my colleagues can bring to them to help them succeed. And that's the beginning of a relationship. And when the relationship grows, price doesn't seem to matter to them as much. You're a trusted advisor. You're a partner to them. You're not a vendor or a provider or a supplier. Yeah. It's just totally different.
So let's kind of summarize this section, and you can have conversations with these people. After this, you can connect if somebody said something that impacts you. So what Bill said, I think, was interesting. You can deal with different personality types. We'll be dealing with that. But and Mark said about the belief, he stated the belief. So beliefs comes out of your values. So you have this culture. You may not be that aware of it, but I'm suggesting becoming more aware of your culture, what you value, what you're bringing. You can actually sharpen your ability to speak more powerfully and find those people. It's like a magnet that are attracted to whether you, fits your uniqueness. So it can help you become a more effective salesperson and a sales program. So let's segue into becoming a 5-star networker. I want to tee this up for Maury and Bill in a certain way. So there's some people on this call right now that are very skilled in new business development and actually like new business development. They're cold call, they don't mind this and they're good at it. But most people, if you're not good at cold calling, or you're not willing to do cold calling, or you're no good at it, you're kind of stuck. So, and then if your website or social media isn't generating anything, you're really stuck. So what is it you might resort to? Well, what a lot of people do is they become 5-star networkers. Now you happen to have two of the top here in Chicago right with us. So I want to start with Maury and say, Maury, what's your number one tip? If you only had one tip to offer to us, what is the number one thing we need to do to become what we call networkers, you call connected connectors? What's your number one tip?
I would say that paying it forward is the number one most important thing that you can do, because in our society, and I don't want you to feel squeamish about this, but in our society, when you pay it forward, you hope or have expectations that perhaps something's going to come back. And in business, that's essential. The other thing I'd like to comment on is, as I listen to everybody talking this morning, is the revelation that time is limited. And that's, I think, the perfect reason, John, to use culture-based initiatives when you do work. You want to limit the time that you waste, and you want to excel on the time that you use to talk to and work with people who are going to listen to and hopefully gain from your experiences.
So Bill, what would be your number one tip, okay, that you would say, hey, you want to become an effective networker or connected connector like you? What's your number one tip?
Well, the number one tip is pay it forward, the giver's gain. I agree with that completely, but I'll take it one step further and say, I have 3 keys to finding a good networking partner, people that you want to connect with and share introductions with. Number 1, you've got to share similar values with that person. In other words, if somebody, is against a certain group of people and you're not, maybe you shouldn't connect with that person. Number 2, you need to work with similar clients. Because if someone says to me, I work with Fortune 500 companies and I work with small and medium-sized businesses, we're not going to have clients to pass each other. And number 3 is make sure that person's a trusted advisor, meaning when they make an introduction, the other person responds. When Maury makes an introduction, they don't ask what I do or why did he make the introduction. They just know that Maury made the introduction, so they're going to meet with me. Whereas if you're just working with a salesperson that all they're doing is bringing in leads and then passing it on to a relationship manager, they're not a trusted advisor. They're not serving, they don't have deep relationships with the people they're introducing you with. So those are my 3 keys to finding a good networking partner.
Great. Jordan, any comments that you want to make on what they said or any questions? And if people have questions, just raise your hand. There's a pretty large group, but raise your hand. So we'll do an interactive conversation. Jordan, what impacted you on what they said?
I mean, I totally agree with Bill and Maury. I sell companies for a living, so I need to connect people and hope that those connections come back to me. But I totally agree with what Bill and Maury are saying.
Yeah. What about you, Cindy? What's your feelings on this?
Well, I thought that Bill made a lot of sense with his 3 components in sharing similar values, similar clients, and being a trusted advisor. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, and for my piggybacking on that, values, again, it ties into this culture thing. What I assert is that if their values and your values are totally 180 degrees, it's probably not a good fit. So don't waste your time, move on. As it pertains, if you're selling on perceived value or this extraordinary service, and this person is just Mr. Cheapo, and cheap is better, it may not work, okay? To use Maury's thing. Now, Maury made a statement here. Does everybody understand pay it going forward? Because a lot of networking and a lot of networkers, there's a reciprocal fees back and forth, which is common. That's not the Maury method. Does everybody understand what pay it going forward? Bill, you want to comment on that?
I want to elaborate too a little further. And Maury and I have had a lot of conversations about this. I want people to understand that we are still capitalists. We are still trying to make a profit. We're just choosing a route of bringing in new clients based on relationships rather than pricing or anything like that. And so we're not walking around like Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi, just giving to anybody we see. It's about giving to those that we believe could be a strategic partner, whether they could be a potential client or whether they could be a networking partner, a referral source. So that's why I was talking about the 3 keys to finding a good networking partner. It's not just giving of your network and your time and your energy to anybody, right? It's about, you got to be strategic about it and giving to the right people where you think there's a potential return. A lot of people talk about, and I think Mark might be one who talks about freely giving, just give to anyone. And that is a philosophy. My philosophy is to because all we have is time. Maury mentioned that, time is a finite resource. And if we're trying to build a business and grow revenue, we need to be strategic in who we're giving to. So that's
Right.
my opinion.
Anybody have anything else that they want to ask these guys, or questions or comments on that? That if you do, raise your hand, and I'll just go around and everybody gets a chance to talk. Jonathan, what's your thoughts on what you heard so far?
No, there you go. No, this is all good stuff. And I think it's stuff that, materials that we've heard in the past. I've been involved with sales and running sales organizations for a long time. I agree with Bill, but I also agree that there's value in giving when there is no expectation of return, in the sense that there are a lot of people who might need our services or need our help or need our advice or need our leadership. And they may not be in a position to return at the particular time, but very possibly in the future. So I find that I do spend time reaching out, or when people come my way that need advice or services, that I know I won't get anything in return at the particular time, but maybe I'm planting the seeds or providing value in other ways that can make a difference.
Yeah, and how I was impacted. I was referred to more years ago, and I don't consider myself a networker like Bill and Maury, although they may call me that. But what impacted me on Maury is, and Maury and Bill are both in this about giving. Their essence of their program is to think about how you can help the other person. Maury always says, what are you doing? How can I help? It's about giving. And I grew up with an uncle and a father that the charity and giving was part. So I have a different mentality on it, but I relate to what you're saying, Jonathan. How about Michael Shrodoff? Maury, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to interject a couple of things. First of all, I think it's important for everybody to take an inventory of those people they know who are leaders in their organization. Without that, you don't really have a basis to cross-check people that should be meeting each other. Secondly, I want to talk just for a few seconds about the word trust. Trust to me means that my clients trust that when I make an introduction to them, even though they may not understand that introduction, they trust me to go ahead and have that meeting. Because a lot of times, somebody who may not be apparent to you as a necessary contact turns out to know people who are very essential to what you do. So it's not always meeting that first contact who can provide business opportunities for you. It's taking a look at the people you're introduced to by a trusted advisor and having that meeting, because there may be something there that you don't see, and you trust the person making the introduction enough to have that meeting.
Right. Danielle, anything you want to say about this that triggers you, or insights that you want to share?
Sorry. No, I think, I'm relatively new to the for-profit world. So it's all a little bit different for me. I came from a long history of nonprofits. And I think, in that world, connections really are key. For fundraising purposes and things like that, and a lot of that does translate back over to the for-profit world, and sorry, can you hear me? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I think in my experience, again, kind of just those connections really are key to any relationship, and building a strong foundation to your entire business.
Let's, Paul, what do you want to say about this, Paul McEntee? That both Bill and Maury pretty well. What's your analysis here?
Sure. I can't state enough how important that value alignment in being a trusted advisor is in networking. Because I think without it, you're not going to go anywhere. And I think one thing that I think Bill would say when he's talking about time is limited, if you're meeting with people that don't share the same values as you have, you're probably wasting your time.
Yeah, and Paul, by the way, Paul's a CFO, but he's also very deeply rooted in the understanding of the power culture. So he's comes from a financial where he understands it. Anybody else have any other questions or comments they want to make before we move to the third segment of Bill and Maury? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think
Go
I'd
ahead,
like
Sam.
just to,
Go ahead, Sam.
yeah, Sam, thanks. Sam, I am, right? So just my experience, just an experience share. Some of my biggest clients were either nobody or nobody would spend time with. Prejudging a situation is probably one of the greatest downfalls you can be. And I think prejudging really goes into the issue of fear. I'm fearing I'm wasting my time. And the problem with fear is that fear really kills your potential. Because to unlock your potential, you have to be free to just express. I never prejudge a situation. If someone says, I want you to meet somebody, that's enough for me. Or, to knock on somebody's door is enough. It's that fear that usually keeps us from living to our potential. So I'm all in dealing with people that believe in what you believe in. What I would say is that you can't prejudge that situation. You have to get yourself out of that fear zone to go out and get yourself exposed and then make your determination for it. Because to prejudge is, I've just had some unbelievable cases that, nobody else would go on. Yeah. And I'm just telling you that the more you can be exposed, which is 80% of the success issue, which is something that Maury talks about all the time. And Maury's done a great job of calming some of my fears. Not that I didn't have it, he's made it better. He's got me closer to my potentials. So
what I would piggyback on that, and we're not touching on this, but what Mark, it says Sam, but it's actually Mark, is about benching your ego, and it's, I'll turn it over to Maury to say the final thing. Maury always says you never know. Maury, you want to comment on that?
I'd like everybody to think this way. There is nothing more important to a person who is running the company or those people on his staff than growing the business. What more impact could you possibly have than saying to somebody, I want to help you grow your business? Who are the people I know that would be good for that growth? So I guess what I'd like to see is that people get in their head that when they make introductions, the introductions sometimes are the most important thing you can do when you're meeting a new client. So paying it forward, asking what you can do to help that person grow their company, and asking who you know that they might like to meet changes you from being a salesman to being a partner. And if we could all just take a look at our human resources and say to ourselves, I already have an incredible, valuable source to me, and it's the people I know. And if I cross-looked at those people and the other people that I know and who would like to have those connections made, I have a whole world to start my networking with. Real networking, networking for a purpose, networking to gain business. So the last comment is, please keep in mind, there's nothing more important to most business people than having the opportunity to grow their business. If you can offer that as one of the functions of your business, one of the functions of your service, one of the functions of your relationship, you've got a whole new ball game in front of you, and it's already there for you.
Yeah, and how I would finish on this, your perceived value is going to skyrocket. And number one, what is service? Maybe nobody else is doing this, and it's adds to your service. So anyway, all right, let's move to disc and sales. So first of all, the disc tool is a Jungian tool. Okay, Carl Jung, 103 years ago, who invented analytical psychology, and I will email you an executive summary. I spent 6 months studying with Peter Mudd, who ran the Jungian Institute for 20 years. Jung was brilliant. And Jung asserted in psychological types 103 years ago, which Myers-Briggs, DISC, predictive index, all the four-dimensional tools are the Jungian on introversion and extroversion. And what he said is the extroverts feel themselves in the action. Now, in the DISC, those are the D's in the I's. We'll go into this a little more. So for people who don't know DISC, the D's feel themselves, which is why they move fast. You got to move fast with the D's and the I's. But the S's and the C's are introverts, and they think themselves in action. Now, the conflict is if you're an ID, you want to move fast, and you may be moving too fast for the S and C. And if you're an S and C, you may be moving too slow for the D's and the I's. All right, so let's get a quick summary of the research from this tool has been developed in 30 years worldwide work with the DISC tool. So a D in DISC is called the dominant. You might call it a pusher. You might call it a type A. You might call it an interrupter. Now, how do you know you got that kind of profile? Well, if you get an email and it's a one-liner, or if it's an email and they're pissed off, it's in flash or caps. Or you're with them and they're interrupting you all the time. Or they motivate you through challenges. Challenges, veiled threats, and outright threats. These are type A's, these are D's. Now, here's what you want to know. These are results buyers. Remember, they buy on results, not cost, okay? So what you want to do is be clear, be brief, be gone, and start with the point. This is not being rude. If you're a Southerner, if you're a high S or a high I, this may sound rude to you. It's not rude. It's saving them time. They want results. Start with the result, okay? What you don't want to do is ramble. Be there in silence. What is silence? What do you think silence means to a D? Anybody want to take a guess at that? You're with a D and you don't say anything. This is common with D's and S's. The S's don't say anything. What does the D think?
That you don't know anything.
Yeah, they may think that, but there actually is another thing they usually form. It's agreement. Silence is agreement to a D.
I think
Maury, go ahead.
they see no value.
Yeah.
It's not presenting value.
Yeah. So if you sit there in silence and you're an S, this is like you're in agreement. You may not be in agreement, or you just discuss problems without any solutions. This is a don'ts. Now, some words you might want to use is like it's done, it's handled. And when you have a challenge with them, D's will always say, like Steve Jobs, the Macintosh, they designed the container before the contents. It was backwards. So a D might say to you, put a gallon in here. So what you need to do with the D is say, hey, you're smarter than I am. You show me how to put a gallon in here. Or here's some options. Use an alternate or triplicate close. That means I can buy 12 of these. I can buy the 4-quart or the 5-gallon, the biggest and the best, the fastest and the best. When you do an alternate close or a triplicate close with a D, what do? Anybody want to take a guess? Why does this work so well with D's?
It gives them a reason to say yes.
Yeah, and they like to be in control. It gives them a choice. And you sell the opportunity. Now, any comments or questions on this? Is this a profile that anybody finds difficult to deal with? This is, by the way, worldwide when we do groups, this is the #1 profile. This is like 80% of the time. People say, what's the most difficult personality to deal with? It's the D's. Now, what Bill said, they may share your values. This is not about their values. This is about style. This is the Mike Ditka type style. Darren, any comments or questions you want to make on that?
Yeah, I think there's also a perception that D's can be negative or rough or they can be unlikable. And I think that's quite the opposite in many cases. They're just to the point.
Yeah.
They can be very fun loving and direct to the point and very happy, but there's time is of the essence. So it's important to get to the point, get to the answer, get to the result.
Right. Save them time, get results. When you keep going back, there is style-wise a rabbit. You go back to what is the result you'd like, Mr. D or Miss D, and you're going to save them time. Jamie, anything you want to say about dealing with these Ds? Jamie is on the East Coast, and he's not far from Boston and New York, and they are like, I have people from all over the world that comment on New York, New Jersey Ds. Jamie, what do you want to say about the Ds since you're up in D land?
I think the comment you shared, John, about if you don't say anything, then they assume you agree. To me, it was a little bit of an eye opener. So I think it's really important because I'm more of a listener, and so I think that knowing that, you know, if I don't say something, they assume I'm agreeing with them. And one of my partners is a D, so it's important for me when we're talking or we're in our executive committee to make sure I'm saying something, speaking up if there's something that I, you know, don't agree with. So.
Anybody else have any other questions about the D before we go to the I? And raise your hand. Okay, so how do you know it's an I? Okay, the I stands for influencer. What you might be called is a pleaser, a talker, friendly extrovert. These are also opportunity people. What's their sign? You go to dinner, you go to lunch or dinner, you say, what's new? That's the last thing you said, okay? Their emails, where the D has you the one-liner, this is like a lot of fluff and there's a story. There's a story. You can go to the last sentence in the last paragraph and that's where the quest is. Okay, you go to their offices, they got, if they like dogs, it's loaded with dogs, cats, birds, chickens, whatever it is, they got everything but the home sweet home. These are eyes. These are, which this deals with networking a lot. These are relationship. They buy on relationship. I deal with Bill Himmelstein because Bill is my friend. And when I need commercial real estate, I call my friend Bill. This is how they buy. Very different than the Ds. Ds are buying on results. These, you'll know if a D wants a relationship. The I's, you'll know. Now, what do you do with the I's? Warm, friendly openings. Let them talk. You talk, they talk, you listen. Take good notes. Don't get down to business too fast. Don't interrupt them. Don't not look at them. They're very sensitive to belonging. Don't keep interrupting them. Now, this can be difficult. Words you might want to use with the I's are new. They love new. They like fun. Feeling closes. How would you feel about? I don't use feeling closes with a D. Use feeling closes with an I in partnership. I use fun challenges. These are the kinds of things that that work with eyes. And by paying attention, I could pick this out instantly because I pay attention to the four signs, their voicemail, their email, their offices, and their behavior and eyes. Bill Himmelstein has a lot of eye. Bill actually uses a lot of DISC in his work. Bill, what would you say about the eye?
Yeah, the I, it's really about building the personal relationship and asking about their kids and if they're going on any vacation, have travel plans. That's I's love that. And they're the ones that tend to come to the events that I host in person. They love those.
Yeah, great. Lori, anything you want to say about the I profile or the pleaser?
I'm not sure anything that hasn't been said. I think that they're probably the easiest for me to work with.
Why is that?
Just because I'm a relationship builder, I like to have a personal relationship, and they are the easiest people to form that with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What about you, Barry? Any comments on this just from your standpoint?
I think sometimes when you're dealing with an I and they're sharing information about anything, what you learn about them, you kind of can listening, you'll understand what's important to them, what they're really trying to accomplish sometimes. Right. And it can be a guide a little bit to help you in how you position, what you present, what you say, and how you behave.
Yeah, I have a lot of I clients. So here's the important thing I would offer as a tip on dealing with I's. I's, this is very different than D's and C's. I's, when they have a problem, they talk it out. They need a committed listener. Let them play the record. It may take a while. They actually see it And if you've seen some really skilled eyes, they'll talk about how they create by talking. And they create, and you take the notes, you put the action plan together, because if you sometimes dealing with eyes, you're feeling, it sounds like a commitment. It was a feeling, and they don't get back to you with information. Like the two financial people here, they can be nightmares of getting information from, but not if you manage it right and get them talking. Okay. Darren, anything you want to say about that? You're smiling about that.
I think you just described how I solve many of my problems, and I come in as a pretty high eye, as Bill will recognize from me showing up to a lot of his live events. So.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I love it. I think it's a great point about being, talking through things in the way the mind works. And again, it's not a negative or a positive. It's a good way to understand how to communicate with those particular folks, and being in living in the I world, but also having that analytical side to me, being in the C group as well. I understand kind of both of these. So when I work with folks, I try to sit back and understand how they're thinking and how they think through, and then react in the right way to get the most out of those conversations.
Great. So the third, now we deal with the introverts. These first two are opportunity. Use the word opportunity. That works. Do not use the word opportunity with the next two groups. The S stands for steadiness. They're security oriented. They're quiet. They're introverted. They're listeners here. They are actively engaged. When you have S's, they stare at, how do you know it's an S? They have warm, caring eyes. They stare a hole in you. They go to meetings. Sometimes the D's and I's don't think, they like to think before they speak. They need time to process. They don't like to process right on the spot. So they're going to be committed listeners and not going to challenge you. They're not going to, which you think they're in agreement. And we talked about S's silence as a form of agreement. They're not necessarily in agreement. And I find in the Asian community, it's even worse. In Japan, you don't have anybody lose face. So they disagree with you, but you don't know it. And you're not going to make the sale because you missed the sign. Okay. Now, what do? You give them time to think. You say please and thank you. If you're a D, use please and thank you more often. You explain what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it. You notice you don't do that with the D's because they'll cut you off and they don't want all that stuff. What, why, and how, and you stay inside the box. Okay? And don't raise your voice. You don't try and motivate with challenge and threats. You don't go too fast. You don't go way out into left field. They don't understand it. You won't know they don't understand it. They'll just stare at you, but they didn't get it. And if they don't get it, you didn't speak it in their language. This is about language. The reason this is called the international languages, you go to France, you speak French. You go to England, so you adapt. Now, words that you might use on the S. I'd buy it for my family. Proven, lifetime guarantee. The closes I use on S's is a simple close, where I give the mark of the world and the D's and the I's alternate, and the C's alternate closes, triplet close. I never do that with an S. S, you spend the time, you do everything right, and you say, this is what we need to do and have to do. Those are the words you use. Why? It works. If you doubt that, do your own research on it. This comes from 30 years of hands-on research. Now, it actually, don't use those words on the marks or the mores or the bill. What you need to do and have to do, they'll punch you in the mouth. However, not the S's. They respond well to that. Any comments or questions? Jamie, you want to comment? You said you're a thinker. You got some S in you. What would you want to say about the S profile?
It's funny. I was listening to you describe an S, and I'm like, yeah, that's I definitely have a lot of S in me. I don't know. And you're smart. You know how to deal with me. So that's good.
How about you, Steve? Anything you want to say about this?
Yeah, John, I kind of side on the D side a little bit. So I struggle with connecting with S's sometimes. And so the time we spent a few weeks ago was helpful to understand some of this and start thinking about it when I'm connecting with people that I don't really feel a tight connection to or a similar profile to.
Yeah, they're wired different, huh, Steve?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is wiring. By the way, you can pick this out on people this is ageless. This goes from age 3 or 4 till the day they die. These words are that powerful. Mike Parrish, anything else? You use this a lot in your program. Anything you want to say about the yes, Mike?
The yeses, they like the security, and that's something that I think many of us don't see, and we have to learn to identify that quicker. And many times people kind of cover up who they are. And I think some of the hints and clues they're giving help us uncover who they are.
Right.
Because always the first objection is not the right objection.
Yeah. Easy way to do this, and you can pick this out before you meet people. Extrovert or introvert. They're either a D pushing you around, an I telling you the life story. Introvert asking a lot of questions or just listening. So what's the C? The C stands for compliant, but they're actually competent people. What a lot of people that aren't C's call them anal retentives. They're highly detailed introverts. What's the sign? 2 real easy signs to pick out on these. Their emails. How do you know it's an E? Paul, tell them how you know it's a C by their email. What's in C's email, Paul?
It's probably got, a couple hundred numbers with subpoints on it.
Data points.
Data. Everything you need to know is in that email from a C. Now, the D's and the I's, if you're a C, they don't read them. They're like, what's the point? What's the point? But it's all in there. Okay, this isn't how you know you need to do things right. They're right. There's a right way and a wrong way with the C's. But now that's hard to comprehend when you're in the gray area, but believe me, this is how. So their email, their offices are also, what do their offices look like? Anybody want to take a guess? What do you walk into somebody's office and you know they're
organized, structured, they're detail oriented, they got everything placed in exactly the right spot.
Right. Okay, you already know. So these are some of the signs. So what are the do's? Like the S, this is what we're going to do. These are like carpentry, like it's steps. What we're going to do, why and how, with evidence. They don't tell them your feelings if you're an I or an S. They don't care about your feelings. That pisses them off. Give them evidence, proof. Tell the negatives up front. This is a style, I do all the negatives up front. If I have a 47% company that sees, and I tell them all the negatives, which these and that, I mean, it sounds negative. It's not negative to them. They don't trust you. Tell them what they're not getting up front. Okay? Follow logical steps. There's the 4 steps, the 3 steps, the 7 steps. Do not jump around. Don't try and get personal. They don't care about how you feel. If you want a relationship, they want a relationship, you'll know it. Okay? Don't sell with feelings. Don't say you'll feel good about this. You'll love this. That is not words that work with this profile. Words that do is say, let's do it right. Let's do it in a proven right way and follow the right steps. And closes, you use a Ben Franklin close. What's a Ben Franklin close?
2 sides.
Yeah.
Why to do it, why not to do it?
Yeah. Works with them. They're dualistic. So anyway, so that's a summary of this. So we got 10 minutes left. So now it's time for you and any of the questions and things that you came to this to get something out of it. So let's start with Jamie. Any comments or questions today, Jamie, or things that you want to ask anybody or any portion of this?
Yeah, I think on the pay it forward thing, there are 3 bullet points Bill listed, and 2 of them I think are sort of intuitive. And the third one, which was the second bullet, I think is something where you kind of need to think about it a little bit. In other words, sharing similar values, I think we have an intuitive feeling for when we share values with somebody. And then making sure someone's a trusted advisor, that's sort of an intuitive thing that that we can get. Whereas making sure they're working with similar clients, I think the point is make sure you're investing your time with people who can actually get you to where you want to go. To me, that's more of a research-based thing, or maybe you can discover it through questions. But I think that's a really important observation. I would also add to that, though, make sure they either work with clients who are similar or can connect you to clients who are similar, because it might not be somebody that they might not be somebody who is working directly with those clients that you want to get access to, but maybe they have somebody who can connect you. So, sometimes it's one removed. And so I wouldn't necessarily write somebody off if they're not working with clients, but if they know
Right.
people. So that was
Well,
something I
great.
took away.
Steve, what are your takeaways from today? Any comments or questions you want to make to anybody here?
Yeah, no, I think it was good. I agree too with the pay it forward piece and kind of looking at things from a, how does it benefit the person you're speaking to, and how can you kind of help them network? We have a lot of clients that we've got products and solutions, and sometimes it's not the right fit, and it's hard to walk away from those and put them in the right direction to a competitor. But the more we do that, the stronger relationship we tend to get.
Yeah.
And when we do say we have something that's a good fit, they trust it, and they don't question our intent. And so yeah, definitely we try to pay it forward. Those are all good topics. And then the disc is super helpful. We've been using that the last couple of weeks since we've met, and just kind of looking at the person that's sitting on the other side of the desk, and is my style and my approach right for that personality, and how can we leverage that? So that was very helpful. Thank you, guys.
What about you, Danielle? You're welcome. Danielle, any comments or questions that you have?
I have to apologize, John. I just had to take a phone call, so I had to space out for a minute here.
All right, we'll come back. Yeah, Michael, any comments or questions you have that you want to address? Darren?
You just call me?
No, I just called Darren.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Darren?
Well, Barry, if you want to jump in there, but no, John, I think it's been a good overview today, and a lot of good reminders of how to, first of all, treat other people just as human beings, and the relationships are so very important. And then the opportunity to understand someone else's perspective in order to ultimately win business and win those relationships that can be productive for both sides. So that's what I'm taking away from today. Pretty much all positive.
Thank you. How about you, Jordan? What's your takeaways from today?
Yeah, I agree with Darren. I think you have to know who you're speaking to and what their personality is, and not try to, put everybody in the same box. So I think you have to tailor your message to who you're speaking to. So this is a helpful reminder.
Right. Mark, any other tips you want to give to the group?
It's just always a pleasure to listen to you guys. I mean, John, you've just been a great influence in my life. Obviously, connecting me with Maury. So, I'm forever grateful. So.
Thank you. And Paul, anything you want to say?
No, I think this helped me put it in a much better framework. Is look for values, and also understand how to communicate to their personality style.
Yeah, great.
Your networking, and I think you'll get a lot better relationships out of it.
Yeah. How about you, Cindy? Anything you want to say about your takeaways from today?
Yeah, I thought learning about the disc and the different personalities and who you're relating with and how to speak with them. And I think spending some time up front listening first is very helpful in determining how to best communicate with them.
Great. And Barry?
Yeah, I would also echo, I'm very grateful. I find this time extremely well spent. There's a lot of not just information, knowledge, understanding, but there's wisdom in this room, and I'm delighted to be part of it. I do have one question about DISC that I don't think anybody brought up. Are there times when a person maybe is high or low in this D or I or whatever it might be, but sometimes they act differently, or is if they're one, that's it. There'll be a combination,
Well, most people have 2 above the midpoint, sometimes 3. And if you have consciousness, you can mask your disc. Obviously, it's called benching your ego. If you have awareness, you can disguise it. But if you pay attention to the 4 signs, you're going to kind of pick this out. The higher it is, everybody in this room has 0 to 100 on the disc scale. Okay, and the higher it is, the easier it is to pick out. But there is always a dominant style. Mike, any of your takeaways from today?
The takeaways are great reinforcement on business lessons and life lessons. I think this is a journey, not a destination. Everyone needs to realize that.
Yes.
Great. And Lori, Joe wasn't here today. I thought Joe was going to be here. Somehow he stood us up.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
This was fantastic, though. I always love being with you gentlemen. I think, well, a couple of things. The culture, I think, is so important. And I think Mark said that you have to state what you believe and then see who that attracts. I thought that was really valuable. And on the DISC stuff, somebody said they were a CI or an IC, and that seems like a really unusual kind of combination to me. So I just thought I would mention that. And also, I had always heard that you are your DISC profile. That's who you are innately. But 30 years ago, when I learned about DISC, I was a DI, and I've migrated over the years. I guess I've mellowed. I'm more of an IS now.
Yeah.
So I just thought I think that's really interesting how those personalities.
On more sophisticated DISC tools, they give you two charts. One is the behavior on the job, which can change by jobs, and one is your natural style. Usually your natural style you came out of the womb as. So, but a lot of them, they just give you the work profile, which changes by job. Bill, what's your words of closing tips for the people?
Yeah, I think Jamie brought up a great point about how, understanding who you're meeting with and do they have a connection to client. I can tell you, and I apologize in advance to all the attorneys on the call, that in general, attorneys are a huge waste of time. If I had back even half the time I've spent meeting attorneys, because most of them are just paper pushers. They're just working a transaction that some other attorney has the relationship. So it's really important to understand, especially with real estate attorneys, very, very few of them have relationships with business owners. They're just brought in when there's a lease negotiation needed. So Jamie, that was a great point about understanding who you're meeting with. And it's a fair question to say, the work that you do, are they your clients or not? Or, who are your ideal clients? Who do you typically work with? But to find, to ask somebody, are they your relationships or is it someone else at the firm, I think is a fair question as well.
And Maury, what's your closing statement for the group?
Well, if we all agree the time is limited, I question whether we walk into a situation where we're meeting a new person, how long can we wait until we discover what type they are? Can we say something offensive to begin with and lose that person almost immediately? So my feeling is that it's very important for you, John, to really make an impression on us as to what the telltale signs of the personality is, so that we can start as soon as we can in that meeting to adjust our conversation to that particular personality.
So to close out the day, this part of our Power of Culture series, today it was on your sales fitting on your culture. And if you want to know more about DISC and the 4 signs and how to pick out what you're dealing with, the DIS or C, even before you meet them, call me. And if you want to know about networking, you can reach out to Bill or Maury, or anybody else on the group here, reach out. And I will do an email follow-up on this, and I'll send you the summary, the executive summary of Carl Jung, which is a brilliant mind. So that's it for today. If you want to stay more and network, you're more than willing to do it. But that officially ends the event for today. Thank you for your time. Thanks for the participation, and it was enjoyable.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Maury.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Be well.
Take care.
Bye.
So what'd you think, Bill?
I thought that was fun. It was a good group.
Yeah.
Is it evident that I despise
No,
attorneys?
I thought, pardon me?
I said, is it
you
very
gotta-
evident
you
that I
gotta-
despise attorneys?
well, you have a prejudgment on it, so that's, yeah.
It's not a prejudgment.
So
I've
I
met
understand.
probably 500 attorneys and I bet 5 of them have been